All right,
Sure.
do you want to do the intro or am I going to do the intro? How are we going to do this?
You can do the intro, man. You got it.
All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm joined by a very special guest, Riley Hall. Been
What's
trying
up,
to
Joe?
been trying to get this thing going for a while. It's just been time zones, man. So we're going to be doing a video about the Cavs today, just talking all about it, talking about our thoughts and opinions and whatnot. First question I wanted to ask you, right? Should the Cleveland Cavaliers re-sign Colin Sexton, and what do you think he's worth?
Man, I'm so hesitant with that, man, because I feel like we are going to end up resigning Colin Sexton. I just don't think for what we should be paying him, it shouldn't be anything over 150, right? I think we start seeing like players like Luka, Trae Young, Shea Gilgeous. They've been getting paid crazy. I think a right number for him might be that 100 to 110 range, but
Mm,
anything over that, I don't think Cleveland's in the best situation to do that.
yeah, I honestly completely agree. I think that for a dude like Colin Sexton, can you really pay him the max? Like, I just can't really see that happening, you know? I'm
Yeah,
thinking more like you. I'm thinking around that 100 million type range over 5 years. So what, 20 million a season maybe? Think
yeah.
that's pretty fair, right? Like he's a scorer. His best position, is he gonna come off the bench eventually or is he gonna start? What's he gonna do, you know?
Yeah, and I think Colin got a lot of proof this season because, like you said, um, with the new acquisition of Ricky Rubio, like he's gonna have to pump it up because you got Garland, who I think should be the point guard long term, and Colin Sexton is really like a shooting guard, but he's undersized. So, and he hasn't really developed anything other than his scoring, and it's like to get that type of like 20 plus, that's you're gonna have to show some other things.
Yeah, exactly. I think, he's got playmaking's one thing. Like, some people will look at it and they'll see he averages like 4 assists and they'll think that's all right for a shooting guard. But the time he has with the ball and the time where he isolates and whatnot, I like to see him boost that number to at least like, 6 assists per game, similar to what Garland was doing this season, because Garland sometimes ran those isolation plays. But the thing is, you didn't know what he was going to deal with it. He could have, scored from it, step back three, gone in, driven, or he's going to kick it out to a teammate. A lot of the times, Colin Sexton would just go in for the mid range, or just go in for a layup. He'd not look at the 3 point. He wouldn't really look out for a teammate. So I just don't think you can be really paying a player, $30 million a season to be really, doing something like that. It's going to be real interesting, though, on how they all go about this, because apparently he's been wanting the max.
Yeah, and I've been hearing that too. Like especially you see these rookie, yeah, and I think the max is what without the awards is like 190 or 170. No, because De'Aaron got 170 plus the
Mm,
kicker. That's Cleveland's not in a position to do that. Like we
yeah.
really not. Like we just gave Jared 100 million. We just got Laurie Marken. We gave him 64 million. We got Ricky Rubio, who could potentially be a starter. I think he should be a starter.
Especially
Yeah,
when we
and then
just signed Laurie Marken.
yeah,
How are
yeah.
they going to work that all out? What do you think about that, signing Laurie Marken?
Even now, I'm still confused. I, I respect Kobe for making the move, but I don't think that was the move we needed. Like, I kind of seen Larry Nance was going to get shopped. I feel like he was one of those players that had enough value to try to get some picks or something in return. But I don't think Laurie Markkinen was the guy, especially with us already having Evan Mobley, Lamar Stevens, Jared Allen. Like, when you get a power forward like Laurie Markkinen, right? You like in Cleveland position, Larry Nance was the perfect power forward or the ideal power forward for us because he was mobile. You can put him at the small forward, you can put him at the four, and you can run small ball five with Larry Nance, right? Laurie Markkinen, you can put him at the four, you can put him at that five sometimes, but you can't put him at that small forward, right?
Mm,
So that really means Laurie Markkinen has to come off the bench, assuming you're starting Evan Mobley, right? And
mm.
and if you're not starting Evan Mobley, now you put Evan Mobley in a situation where you just told him you got this young guy in Laurie Markkinen who's we have faith in taking those minutes.
Yeah. Well, that's a really, really good point. The thing that I don't understand is that it seemed like they went into this free agency with a goal to sign a wing. And they were interested in players like Denzel Valentine. No one really special I heard they were interested in Korkmaz. They missed out on him, you know. They
Yeah.
really went in trying to get a wing. They had, I believe, we had like a mid-level exception of like $8 million or something, and we could not get anyone. And it seemed like for the longest bit of time, Kobe Altman was in a rush to kind of spend that money. But as the days went past, I kind of thought, all right, maybe he's not going to be as in a rush. Maybe he's going to keep the money for next season. And then he made the Laurie Marken move, and it kind of seemed like, you know, he made that move just because he had some money to spend. And that's my issue with it too.
Yeah. And I can see that point too, because like you said, we desperately needed a wing, right? Because Dylan Willer, I just don't trust him at the wing. Like I just don't like.
I agree.
But his weight is just he just don't have it. Isaac Okoro, you can pit him at the wing, but I just don't trust him to fit, or going up against bigger wings like the LeBron, the Giannis's, KD, you know, those Kawhi Leonards, you know, Paul George, if they put him at the wing. Then you got Lamar Stevens, but Lamar Stevens, he's not ready to play that position right now, right?
Yeah.
Like he's mobile, right? He showed that type of promise, but he just he can't shoot like Larry Nance. He doesn't have the playmaking as Larry Nance, right? So all he really is just a PJ Washington, which that's not good for us.
Yeah,
right?
no, not at all.
So like that's why I didn't understand. Like I thought a wing was going to be like Cam Reddish. Like you said, I thought it would have been a great idea to try to even get Derrick Jones Jr. If anything. But, you know, I think Kobe did drop the ball a little bit. I think when he realized that, he made that move to say, hey, man, I am being active. It just wasn't the player I can get a deal on, you know?
Yeah. I think it's extremely frustrating, you know. I feel like with Kobe Altman, he either makes a really good decision or a really bad decision. There's not really in the middle. Like that's the issue I've had with him for so long. You know, he makes a really, really good move drafting Kevin Porter Jr., right? Or trading from him rather, you know? And then he trades him away. There's no in the middle with this guy. He makes a good move and then he makes a bad move. And it keeps repeating. But I agree with you on Dylan Windler too. I still think he was kind of a bad selection. Like there was rumors, you know, he was going to be second round pick, and for some reason Kobe reached and drafted him at pick 26 or whatever. I still don't really get that move to this day. Like it also seemed like he was, you know, he could have maybe traded out the pick or selected someone with more promise. I think with players like Dylan Windler, you can go ahead and draft someone like that for relatively cheap, you know, in free agency.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that too, because a lot of, you know, I get mixed feelings with that too, because I used to say too, it's hit or miss with Kobe Altman. For me, I just had a weird relationship with Kobe Altman because, like you said, man, like it was no in between with Kobe Altman. It was either he made a really bad move or he made a really good move. Like how when he drafted Kevin Porter Jr., excellent move. Honestly, I thought when he drafted Dylan Windler, it was because he got both of them in the same draft. You know, I was like, man, that's great, right? But then how he handled Kevin Porter Jr., how he extended Kevin Love, it was like, why did you do that? And then even with him drafting Colin, right? He drafted Colin, then the year after, he drafted another point guard who was the exact same height, same size, same position as Colin. And I'm like, why would you do, like, because to me, it made me feel like you didn't really have faith in Colin in the beginning, right? Because if you felt like you needed to draft another guard, same height, same weight, same player, potentially, you know, you was going to give him this trade. And then it's like, I just feel like we don't really draft for need. Like we just draft, we just draft. Like we don't look at what's best for our team. Because right now, and actually, I really wanted Michael Porter Jr. Right?
Oh yeah, I've heard so many people say this. I think we probably should have drafted him too.
I think because this was the year we was losing LeBron, right? So you knew you was losing a wing, right? You know how impactful a wing is. You knew Michael Porter Jr. was potentially supposed to be number one, but with injuries, you know, he dropped down, but he dropped down too far. And you basically let Denver get a steal, get a number one pick steal, and now look at what it's looking like for Denver, right? You got a player who, you know, could be a superstar for at the 17th, 18th pick, you know, and that could have been Cleveland, especially if you really believe Cleveland needed a guard, right? Because I feel like in the league, it is so many options for guards in the league that even if you miss out on a superstar guard, you can get one in free agency or trade. It is so much easier to get a average point guard than it is to get an average small forward in the league.
That's pretty spot on, to be honest. Like, as well as he probably knew Jeff Green was leaving that free agency as well, which is another forward. And if he could have also gone with the goal to maybe trade Kevin Love that, free agency. So you lose Kevin Love, power forward, Jeff Green forward, LeBron James forward. Why not draft Michael Porter? Like, he was right there in front of him, and he just fumbled the bag, really. So it was still so weird. But honestly, drafting Colin Sexton, I think it was just almost a best available type thing. Like, he hadn't really figured out a direction. At that point, the real big GMs too have almost scouted the next draft. So if Kobe Altman also went into that draft thinking we were going to be a good team in the future, which we were always going to be on the rebuild again. But if he was smart and knew we were going to be a bad team, he could have drafted a forward that free agency and then looked at next free agency when there was players like Darius Garland who were already killing it in high school. He could have gone out and drafted them.
Yeah, and even on that subject, I'm glad you brought that up too, because I was saying that too. Like, even I know because there was people saying, why would you draft Michael Porter Jr. if he's potentially going to be redshirt, right? Right? For Cleveland's perspective, if you know you're not a playoff contending team now, you don't have Bron, you don't have Kyrie, why are you worried about going to the playoffs when you have a whole bunch of players who have never shown you to be playoff caliber players?
Yeah.
So worst case scenario, you let Michael Porter Jr. rest like Sixers did with Ben Simmons and Joel, and get another top pick. So now you got Michael Porter Jr. Well, he used to be top 3. You put him along another top 3, and now you potentially could be back in it, right? 2-3 more years of development, and your team is looking scary. So I just feel like Kobe Altman, he takes chances at the weird times, at very weird times. Like he took a chance with Kevin Porter Jr. was excellent, but he doesn't take chances when it comes to, yes, Kevin Porter Jr. had the debacle, but just let him redshirt another year. Like, he was already not playing. What's you not letting him play the other half of the season gonna hurt, right? Because that's all Houston did. They let him play 5-6 games in the G League and had him back on the court, and now all of a sudden he's looking like a superstar. And I just always feel like Cleveland has always been in a situation where we've had talent, we just never had patience with him.
Yeah, Kevin Porter Jr. That Houston really handled that like the most perfect way they possibly could. Getting him to the team, getting him comfortable with the area, not playing him straight away, and then when they were ready to play him, they sent him to the G League, where he was able to show some stuff, and then they still, kept their patience in check. First couple games, he started going off, and they didn't just call him up straight away. You're exactly right. They gave him a couple more games to develop, and then they brought him in for the last 20 games of the season, and then it was kind of perfect for them. And then you just look at the Cavs, and wow, when you see people saying we need like a genuine shooting guard now, and there's rumors we're looking to ship Colin Sexton away for like a genuine shooting guard, we had that, we legitimately had that, and we threw it away. And Kobe Altman just did something stupid again. But I'll tell you what, one move that Kobe Altman looks to be really interested in making, which I want to get all your thoughts and opinions on, which I think could be absolutely great, is the Cam Reddish situation right now with the Atlanta Hawks. What do you think about that?
I really hope Kobe Altman can pursue that. I really hope, because that one, I won't say will fix all the problems with the Cavs, because we definitely still need more shooters on the team. But if you pick Cam on a team who has no franchise player right now, and you tell Cam Reddish that it is open season, right? We don't have, the system is not built around Colin yet. The system is not built around Garland yet.
Yeah.
So you can real life play and make the system, if you feel like this is your system, show us. And I feel like Cam Reddish need that team, because I really think Cam could be good, he just need a team where he can have the ball, because even in Atlanta, right, when he came back in the playoffs, he's a good shooter. He can create a shot. He's really like a Paul George, but just like similar like Paul George. When Paul George got good is when Danny Granger left the team, right?
Yeah.
And this is how it's going to be in Atlanta. Like, the moment he separates himself from Trae Young, who is ball dominant, like, no knock to him, he should be. But when the focal point is on you, I mean, you're not gonna develop. Like, we've never seen a player like, even with Michael Porter Jr., but even though he's just that good, when the system not a focal point of you, you're not gonna be like that. So if Kobe Altman can make this move, I think this would be a great sign for us, because now we would have, and we still got a lot of questions because we still got to decide, is Colin and Garland the duo for the guards? But you have the option between those two. You got whoever you get at your two guard, Cam, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen. I think you can build something with that.
Yeah, and the good thing that you said this as well is that, maybe Cam Reddish, if he separates himself from Trae Young, he could potentially be a way better player. And you looked at the, Danny Granger and Paul George thing. When Paul George got the ball more in his hands, he ended up being really good. And the great thing with Cleveland is right, if you would have put him with Colin Sexton, I don't think that would be that great. But Darius Garland is an elite three-point shooter, catch-and-shoot type player. I don't think Garland would mind giving Cam Reddish the ball to potentially do some things. I think that duo would be absolutely insane. But it also depends on what we would have to trade up, to get Cam Reddish. If we have to give up a 2022 first-round pick, I probably wouldn't do that, because I still feel like we need one more draft. But in saying that we only need one more draft, in my opinion, I reckon the 2023 pick should be up for grabs. And I wouldn't mind giving them, if they even took on Cedi Osman and his terrible contract, I'd say, all right, here's 2023 pick. There's no guarantees we're going to be good in that season, but we really, really like Cam Reddish, So I would offer Cedi Osman and that pick for Cam Reddish. And I couldn't see why the Hawks, wouldn't want to do that, especially if, they know they're going to have to pay Cam Reddish soon, and he's kind of not really working out right now on the team. But they're also not really in a rush to trade him.
Which is great for them, because they know, because Atlanta understanding, which is why I think Cleveland has to adopt some of these other teams' philosophies. Atlanta know they don't have to, right? Like, they know they have to be persistent, right? They have to be persistent, because they don't want to be in a situation where they pay all these players, now they don't got cap. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But now with them, because they know people want Cam Reddish, and this is why I think Kobe Altman this offseason should have been more patient, right? And the reason why I say that, and I'm glad you said that, because we could have messed around and traded Larry Nance for Cam, and I really think Atlanta might have really wanted that, because they would have had a power forward that could be mobile in that 3 and power forward spot. So now you give him more flexibility for John if you want to play small ball 5, or Clint Capella now, because now Clint Capella is not going to be compromised. He can just control that paint. And I hope Kobe Altman going in this season, he's just persistent. Like, you got to understand, like just you have to be diligent. You got to pitch your pieces in order, because on a tangent, I really think they're gonna end up shopping or trading Ricky Rubio. I don't see them keeping him.
The way you think that will be like a deadline move, maybe?
Yeah, because I think similar with JaVale, because I seen that coming too. I knew we wasn't gonna keep him long term. It was just like, he was a good veteran player that was still worth something. And Rubio is the same thing. Rubio is a good veteran player that a lot of playoff contending teams want, right?
Yeah.
And for Cleveland, we don't need Rubio, right? Yes, Rubio can teach our young guys how to, just is what you got to do. But Kobe Altman is going to end up trading him close to that trade deadline. Yeah. I can see that.
And I think what teams will like about Ricky Rubio is, once he gets traded, if we were to trade him at the deadline, right, what's he on now? A $17 million contract. We will have already paid half of that. So a team that will only have to pay him like $9 million, I could genuinely see a team, if Ricky Rubio actually plays good this season, averages what? 6 points, 5 assists, 6 assists on terrific defense, good leadership. I don't see why a team wouldn't want to pay the other half of his contract and then maybe even give us a lottery protected first. That would be, I think, the most ideal situation. A team like the Clippers, like what? I still don't understand why the Clippers traded for Eric Bledsoe. I think they should have kept Rondo, in my opinion, but they were looking for playmaking last deadline. If they're going to look for playmaking again this deadline, Ricky Rubio could be on their radar. And the dude that they have that I kind of like is Luke Kennard. I think contracts would kind of match up there. And if we could even get something back, I wouldn't even mind taking on Luke Kennard. I think he's actually a really good player and would maybe fit in with the Cavs. But yeah, you're right with Ricky Rubio. I'm not too sure how that will go. But in the same terms, now that we've got Laurie Marken, I don't expect the Cavs to be as bad as what I thought they were kind of going to be. I think they will. I don't know. I don't know where you have them, but I think we could push for like a 11 seed now, 10 seed, which I don't know is really what we want. I don't know if I want to be kind of, in the middle of the East, not making the playoffs, but not being completely bad to get like a top 5 pick. Like, it's kind of a scary position to be in as an NBA fan, but I feel like that's where Cleveland are kind of heading. But I guess that comes into my next thing. Where do you think the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to finish? Do you think we might make the playoffs? How do you think this season's going to go for us?
Based on my last reaction I did before, like literally days before the Laurie Marken trade, I feel like the Cavs is going to win at least 35 games, right? We won 22 last season. Assuming the Cavs is healthy, which is a huge what if, a huge variable in the NBA, I think we can do 35. Now, for 35, that would be, looking at the seeding now, that would be 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, right? Now, I will say, looking at this bracket now, I do see teams like the Sixers being in the offs, the Nets, of course, the Bucks, the Knicks, the Hawks, the Heat, the Bulls, right? And then possibly Boston and whoever battling for that playing spot.
Yeah, so Pacers will still be there, I reckon. Raptors will still be all right.
So I do think 12. I do think 11 and 12 is accurate. I think we're gonna be in that 30 to 35 win ratio, and I do think that would be fair. That really be fair because now the only way they get more than that is assuming Colin Sexton played out of body. Like somebody on that team played out of body. I don't really like. I think Colin might because he's this is his extension year.
Yeah,
but
I think if anyone's going to, it might be Garland. I think he could be the dude that can. Oh, I think he could explode this season. I truly reckon Garland is the future of Cleveland.
I agree with you because even first season, right? Because Cleveland was killing Garland because they was feeling like he was getting his points in vain. And when I was seeing him, I'm like, you got to understand, we did draft him hurt, right? So you have to factor that in. He was already limited, right? And he was battling a position that was held by Colin, right? Because fighting for the exact same position, 2-6-1 guards, right? But it was still things, like you said, like on the pick and roll, Garland, he understands what he do offensively, right? He can create his own shot still, man. And he was he was a willful passer. He was a good passer, right? Year 2, we start seeing all of that in full effect, right? And I think year 3, I really think he might average 20 and 10 or close to that because he was already averaging 18 and 6. I think with Evan Mobley now being able to shoot that mid-range 16-foot shot, and now with Laurie Marken now, assuming they try to play Garland more on the bench because of Rubio, I can see Garland taking that step. Like you said, like I agree with you 100%. I just don't think I can just. I'm kind of fearful because I can see Cleveland giving Colin more the green light, and I kind of don't want that to happen, but
Yeah, I think Garland. I reckon 20 and 8. I think that's a pretty fair assumption to think that he could average something like that. I think Garland will really prove though why Sexton might need to be traded. Like, I think a lot of Cavs fans misunderstand this. A lot of Cavs fans think that Sexton is our best player and by a long margin, which, hey, he might be our best player, but I definitely feel like Garland might take a jump over him this season. Like, if Sexton averages 24 points per game again and, like, 4 assists, does the exact same thing, which I think he might do a little bit better. He might get, like, 25. But, if Garland is getting 20 points and 8 assists per game or whatever, oh, man, I think that's almost, the sign to say, oh, we might need to go get Garland a genuine 2 to kind of play with. 2 players I would like. I think Cam Reddish, move him to small forward maybe, and you can move Okoro to shooting guard. Or Dylan Brooks, who could be up for trade talks very soon. I think he would almost be perfect for the Cavaliers. 6'7", shooting guard, small forward, just a really good wing player. I think he would be absolutely awesome. But I think you're right that 9th to 12th seed or whatever, 9th to 11th seed, that's where we should, I think, maybe finish. And then I think we just got to hope that Kobe kind of plays his cards right, because you'll have Rubio, who, if we decide to keep him and he goes to free agency, that's $17 million gone. Markkanen, if they wanted to put him in a sign and trade, or in a trade rather for another player, you can maybe do that for like a star. And then I think, if we extend Sexton that $20 million, there's rumors we could sign and trade him. But I think going into the 2022 free agency, I honestly believe we definitely should target, like, this is the year we should target a star. And I think one player who has a pretty good connection with Darius Garland, who is really, really good friends with him, who I know will be a free agent this offseason, is Bradley Beal. I want to get your thoughts and opinions on potentially going after Beal and how you think he'd be good, if he'd be good for Garland and the Cavs.
That would be intriguing. That would be intriguing. If we could get Bradley Beal, that would be intriguing. Put Garland at that one. I feel like his true position, and give him a dynamic shooting guard in Bradley Beal. The only thing that would kind of make me wary of that, right, for Bradley Beal's point of view, is if he really want to still be on a team that's potentially rebuilding still. Like, even with the relationship with Garland, I think with his parents in Washington, you don't have John Wall now. They got rid of Russell Westbrook for whatever reason. I think Bradley Beal might be ready to contend. Like, he barely got in the playoff last year with Russell Westbrook, right? And he had technically better success with John Wall, who was basically never there, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if Bradley Beal would okay it. I feel like for Washington's standpoint, they might do it because they might end up getting like Colin. They might get, they can get some legitimate assets back. They can get the assets they want, the 4 first-round picks. I can see Kobe Altman throwing scarily, but, but I just wouldn't. I don't know, because I think Cleveland's in a situation. I do agree. We should pursue a star, but we should not rush a star, right? Star for us, we need a star who might not even necessarily be a star yet, but he's like almost there, right?
Yeah.
So we need like who's like in that 22, 24 range, who's about to hit that. And I think Bradley Beal, we might have to pass, right?
Yeah, I kind of agree, to be honest. But, when you said like 4 first-round picks earlier, right? I think it would. I think it would be more of we just sign him for nothing because he is going to be a free agent, or if the Wizards want to be that team that says, all right, we'll give Bradley Beal more money, so he can get on that, bigger max or whatever. Then I think they might look to ask the question of, could we maybe get, Colin Sexton and another player? But I don't really think they'll be pushing too much for first-round picks, if that makes sense. I think they'll just be kind of, trying to get whatever they can out of a player who's going to be a free agent. But is there anyone else in particular you maybe think we could go after in 2022? Because honestly, I don't think it really looks like too much of a free agency for like players we should be going after. I really think if we're going to give money to someone, it needs to be a wing. Like, it absolutely has to be. There is no other position we should be giving money to.
I agree with you. I think I would first because I know a lot of those players that was supposed to be free agents this next free agency, a lot of them extended. So what free agency, what free agents is available
Dude,
that you know?
I don't even know. I remember Bradley Beal was the big one. If I search it up right now, Bradley Beal was definitely always going to. Oh, James Harden will be a free agent, which, come on now.
Yeah.
That's just a dream. Kyrie as well. It's the same thing. And then you've got John Wall there, but everyone else they're pretty average. Like Westbrook is there, but then when you kind of move on from those, 5 players that I've just mentioned, the sixth next who's getting paid the highest amount this year is actually Gary Harris. So the list kind of gets, very, very thin. There's a couple other players here and there. Like if we're genuinely starving for a wing, I guess Joe Ingles is there. But dude, there's not really anyone. I think if there's going to be the only player we'll kind of target is mainly Bradley Beal, if I'm being completely honest. So it's not looking good for the Cavs. It's really not looking that good at all.
Then that means in that situation, that's where Kobe might have to take the New York Knicks approach, where they wasn't even they was looking at free agency, but they were just looking for which star was disgruntled. And whoever was disgruntled, that's who they traded for. That's who they're going to pursue because, like you said, I agree. We do need a wing because honestly, and you touched on it too, I think Isaac Okoro need to get pushed at the shooting guard.
Yeah.
Because the last game I seen them put Isaac Okoro at the shooting guard is when we played Chicago and Zach LaVine had a very tough night.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
And Garland won. So I think if we can get a dynamic wing, right? A dynamic wing who can shoot, and it's, I know I'm going to say KD, but a KD tier player, you know, doesn't necessarily have to play defense, but he has to be a scorer. He has to be an MPJ. He has to be Kevin, and for Cleveland, and that's why I've always said, it's kind of hard for Cleveland because Cleveland is not a free agent attraction, right? So even when those big names, like you said, is in free agency, it's so hard for us to track it. And I know you can say sign and trade, but Bradley Beal would have to okay it because he's a restricted free agent. So even if they try to get the sign and trade, he would have to say, hey, I see this as a contender. And I don't think he sees Cleveland as, we haven't given him any proof that we're a contender.
That's maybe what we're going to do this season, to be honest. That's why I was thinking maybe a 35-win season wouldn't be the worst thing kind of out there because you can actually show players like Bradley Beal that we kind of mean business, similar to how, you touched on as well, the New York Knicks. They did that, last year or last season rather, where they showed, a lot of people that they could be a very, very good team in the NBA. And they didn't really manage to get anyone big, but they ended up bringing in players like Evan Fournier and, Kemba Walker. And wow, Fournier would have been a much better player for the Cavs to get, in my opinion, than Laurie Marken. So that kind of sucks that we couldn't get him. But in my opinion, full opinion right now, the Cavs should have their attention on Dillon Brooks and Cam Reddish. I think we got to trade for one of them. Both of those players would be perfect for the Cavs for 2 different reasons. Both can guard both, either wing position. But Dillon Brooks, if you're looking for shooting and a player that can create his own shot, but can also be mainly a catch and shoot player, Brooks is that guy. But if you're looking at, a dude that could have star potential maybe in the future, like maybe a Paul George, who was, some people thought could have star potential, and then he ended up growing into that on the Pacers. I think Cam Reddish is that guy. And I seriously think if we're going to trade for someone to give up a first-round pick, why not give up the 2023 first-round pick for Cam Reddish? So that's kind of my final thoughts,
And I respect it. That pick, that's intriguing because I don't like giving up picks, especially first-round picks, especially if you're Cleveland, because those could very well be top threes, and we can't afford to lose those picks. And like you said, Dillon Brooks, that he'd be a cool piece, but I'm really all in on Cam Reddish. I really think Cam Reddish would flourish in Cleveland because we're in an interesting situation because we do not have a franchise player yet, right?
Yeah.
Our system is not built around one player. We're literally Like, because even if you look at the moves, what we're doing, man, like we're literally seeing what worked, right? We're like literally traded for anybody and everybody and saying, you know, because we had Isaiah Hartenstein, you know, for God forbid, I told people I didn't think he was staying here, but we tried it just to see, you know, can we find another Kevin Love, younger and cheaper, right? Then we get, I'm assuming again, Laurie Marken just to see, will this work, you know, at that power forward position, right? Then I honestly feel like we got Rubio for the same reason. They just like, you know, can we have another guard there other than Colin and Garland, and can we be effective, right? And I think they're in a situation where they're just trying a little bit of everything. And I think Cleveland, like, because of that, we gotta pursue players like Cam, right? We gotta pursue young players. We gotta pursue young players like Cam, either via like that or the draft. We gotta take chances. Yeah. And I think Cam is the one. I got my money all in Cam. Kobe Altman has to pursue that.
Well, could you imagine if, like, next offseason, let's just say we get a top 5 pick, right? Or, dude, I don't know if I want to say that because it's probably not realistic. We'll say a top 10 pick. If we can draft, like, a good wing in that draft and then bring in Cam Reddish and you bring in 2, like, really, really good wings, maybe one's a shooter and maybe one's Cam Reddish that can be, like, a really good shot creator in the NBA, then I don't think people could deny that we will have, like, a very good young core. Like, could you imagine that? Garland, Okoro, Reddish, Mobley, Allen, Markkanen, that young wing, and maybe Sexton, if we keep him, that could be, like, 8 really, really solid young players. Or maybe if they get rid of Sexton, maybe they bring in another good young player back in. I'm not too sure how the Cavs are going to go about it. The way Kobe Altman kind of seems to be going about this is whoever wants to come to Cleveland at this point, like a dude like Laurie Marken, just why not? Let's try them and see how they go. But like you said, Ricky Rubio, I think Ricky Rubio will be perfect for the Cavs because I feel like we really needed a point guard off the bench to play some defense, but also that can still play make without having to take, you know, the shots away from, like, maybe Garland or Sexton or players like Kevin Love and Markkanen who'll still be there to maybe create their own shots a little bit, but predominantly be some more catch and shoot type players. That's why I think Ricky Rubio is perfect because he's almost like a 10 times better player than Matthew Dellavedova, you know, who kind of played a little bit better towards the end of the season. But yeah, I kind of knew we weren't going to be keeping Dally. I knew that he was going to be interested in going to the NBL. He actually signed with Melbourne United, which weirdly enough, that's where I live. I live in Melbourne. So yeah, I might get to go see Matthew Dellavedova play, which will be pretty cool. But yeah, bringing in Rubio over Dally, that's a W, you know.
Yeah, you know, and you know, and I know I hear you. You know, with Rubio, I can understand why Cleveland fans would be excited for that. I'm just afraid. Like, I respect that point of view. I'm afraid that's not their true intent.
Oh, okay.
I almost feel like they're using him to see if they really need Garland or Colin.
Yeah.
And because because I don't really think Rubio is a player you want off your bench. You know, like
really?
Like he can play off the bench, right? He can, like, because he is a player that's not demanding of points. He does the intangibles. Like in Minnesota, he averaged 9 points, 6 assists. You know, like, you know, so, and that's pretty productive for the player he brings. Like, he was pretty productive in Utah. He was productive in Phoenix. Like, he was productive in Minnesota, right? In all of those teams he started on, right? Now I know D'Lo was hurt. You know, that's no big reason, but realistically, you know, they most effective ball was when Rubio was starting on the floor. And I just feel like Rubio has starting qualities, which is why I also think he's going to get traded before the deadline. But, you know, I just don't feel like our bench is good enough for us to have Rubio on the bench.
Yeah.
If that,
it's gonna be. Oh, I don't know. I feel like they brought in Ricky Rubio to almost be like the ultimate role player. I think they see him coming off the bench, and I think they like that he kind of he kind of filled the gaps in some areas that we had missing, like defense and playmaking off the bench. Um, it will be weird though. I hope they don't use him to see if they can start him with maybe Garland, because I just can't see like Garland. There's no way he's gonna play the two, or Rubio's gonna play the two. I just think that would
yeah,
be I think that'd be a stupid decision. I think if you're either full steam ahead on Sexton or you're looking for a more genuine shooting guard, I don't think Rubio and Garland will be the thing. And God forbid if they were to trade Darius Garland, oh man, my
which
my my time as a Cavs fan might be up. I might just quit basketball forever and just look at Australian basketball. That might be just it for me. I might have to jump on the Matthew Dellavedova bandwagon in Victoria, Australia. So that might
yeah,
might be all
if
over.
if if they do that, it would be so many questions. Like it would make me like ask Cavs fans, Kobe, all anybody, like, what was the point of this experiment if we was gonna trade Garland? Like, we waited for him to develop, let him develop, and then we traded him. He turned out to be the best shooter amongst him and Colin.
Yeah,
Became the best passer, and he's not that far off as a scorer than Colin already.
Yeah.
Like, because Colin, I mean, yeah, Colin averaged 24, Garland averaged 18.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not that real big of a difference, especially if you add the fact that Garland was essentially pass first.
Yeah.
So, and he was a lot more efficient from threes.
Yeah.
You know,
Like Darius Garland, I could see banging like Damian Lillard. Like, people don't realize that at this age, Garland is better at this age than what Damian Lillard was. Like, at this age, Damian Lillard was still in college, averaging the same stats that Garland is in the NBA. Like, Garland could legitimately be one of the best point guards in the league. But Sexton, I don't see that ceiling for him,
Yeah.
I don't know what I see Sexton as.
For me, and to that point too, like, and it's not even that Sexton is a bad player, like, because just in case anybody question us, we're not saying Colin. It's just the fact that Colin in 4 years has not answered the question, what else can he do outside of scoring the ball, right? Yeah. And which leads me to a question: if I put a good or decent defender on Colin, what else is he bringing to the team to help us win, right? And he hasn't shown us that because he's not a very consistent shooter, right? He's a very wishy-washy player when it comes to attacking the paint too. Like we've seen when we had Andre Drummond, there's been times where Andre Drummond could have easily kicked it out of the drum, could have got an easy layup, but he decided to go up on two defenders, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you can say Colin Sexton has got a big heart, which he does, but Colin Sexton has not evolved as a scorer.
Yeah.
Right. And I know he's young. He's still got a lot of time to grow, but usually when a player averaging this many points and he's doing the same thing for 4 years, you can kind of gamble or bet on the fact that he's not gonna change that, right?
Yeah.
And it is kind of scary because, like I said, he hasn't developed as a passer, not as quickly as Garland has. He hasn't developed as a shooter like Garland has, and Garland is already caught up to him as a scorer.
Yeah.
Right? Because Garland has already proven that he's more dimensional scoring. Because there's been games where Garland had 9 points and still had like 15 assists.
Yeah. Some people might argue too that Sexton has averaged like an extra assist since his first season.
Yeah.
But that doesn't tell me that he's developed more as a passer, because that might have just been the fact that our team has gotten better overall, which means he's had better players to. If he was driving in right and he realized, oh crap, there's two defenders on me, and just kicks it out and hope. Who knows? He's kicking it out to a better player than what we probably had 2 years ago. The other thing is with Sexton, is, again, as we talked about at the start of the video, is just the money. The dude is going to want a lot of money, and he has not proved that he can be really like that. And a stat that I don't think people talk about them, as much is he is the most blocked player in the NBA in the paint. I don't know if you knew that, but I'm pretty sure he gets blocked an average of 2 to 3 times per game.
I can imagine that just based off of how.
Yeah. Like, there are games where I remember one time last season, he got blocked 2 times in a row. That was kind of my turning point, I think. Like, when he drove into the paint, got blocked, got the rebound, and then just put it straight back up and got blocked again. Dude, we can't be having that.
You can't, and it's kind of unfortunate because JB Bickerstaff, we brought, and I really do like JB Bickerstaff, but that was his emphasis, that we was gonna make smarter decisions. We was gonna work smarter, not harder, right?
Yeah.
And it's like Colin Sexton, I haven't seen it rubbed off on Colin Sexton. I've seen it rubbed off on Isaac Okoro, right? I've seen it rubbed off on Garland. I've seen it even rubbed off on Larry Nance, and he's the vet on our team. I've seen it rubbed off on Jared Allen, in terms of he's been a lot more confident to shoot a little farther from the paint and even post up players.
He's been getting this kind of mid-range game going now.
Yeah, so it's Colin, especially if you're the star of the team, you set the tone for the rest of the team, right?
Yeah.
So you going up on 2-3 defenders when you got players like Kevin, and we've seen Kevin look visually mad because he, or Andre, it's Colin, as much as these players do need to get off the Cavs, to an extent they have a point, it's no reason why Kevin Love should be in the post with a guard and you're dribbling still. Give him the ball, right?
Yeah.
Because it's God forbid, if that's Evan Mobley, he's a 7-foot, or Jared Allen 7-foot, and he got let's say Isaiah Thomas, let's say he's back in the league on him. Give him the ball. Let him get his confidence. Because Garland would have gave it to him, right? Yeah. And Isaac Okoro would have gave it to him, and he's not a playmaker. It was
I think it is a lot like that. I'd really love to see J-Bay work with Colin Sexton to maybe work out a couple of different things this offseason to kind of maybe, like you said, though, nothing's really rubbed out on Colin Sexton yet, but I would hope that maybe one more offseason he can change his game up a little bit. But one thing, now, I think this will define whether or not we be a really good team this season or really terrible, is I think how JB, kind of coaches the team this offseason. Because one thing that we've kind of brought in this offseason is we have a lot of bigs. And the teams that have a lot of bigs, there's one thing to have them, be open as a catch and shoot, and one thing to be, open in the paint or something like that. But one thing I'd really like to see the Cavs do is get Garland and Rubio to start making a lot of plays and get these bigs moving around and screening for other players. Like the Golden State Warriors do it perfectly, where they'll have Draymond Green and another player. They'll do a double screen where another player can wrap around and get an open 3-point shot. If we can figure out a way to, get players like Garland and that open much more and actually use Dylan Windler, see if this guy could actually be a right player, I think we should implement a kind of structure and more a system proficiency that lets us have, a lot more screens in this team, especially considering how we're a big team. And that's a thing that I feel like the Cavs haven't done very well is we don't really do, anything. A player will have the ball, let's just say Sexton, he'll be looking to run a play, right? And our players will just stand in the corner, not moving or doing anything. So I'd really like to see the Cavs kind of implement more plays and a lot more screen plays, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think that will define whether or not we be a good team or not this season, is how we kind of run our plays. What do you reckon about that?
I agree with that because last season, because I really watched preseason really hard, more than I ever watched the preseason.
Yeah.
And I feel like that would make players like Dylan Windler more effective, right? Because like you said, if we set more off-ball screens or double screens or whatever. However you want to hedge it on offense, I think that would make the team a lot more effective.
Yeah.
I think it would also discipline our team a lot better too, because we would already know this is a team game. Because, like you said, Golden State, like the year before they became Golden State, you know, they was literally everybody was equal, right? So because everybody felt like they was equal and everybody was involved, right? We believe, you get what I'm saying? This is where you had players like Andrew Bogut and and Draymond Green, like you said, setting double screens, like literally elevator. Now Steph Curry got a shot. Now Klay Thompson got a shot. You know what I'm saying? Like now Iguodala can be effective and get it easy. A cut, like he can cut to the basket. That's easy right there. And I feel like Cleveland being in a situation like we don't have a set in stone star. I mean, I don't see no reason why we shouldn't be playing that way, right? And I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, you know who actually implemented that really, really well this season was actually the Clippers when they got Ty Lue in. They actually got Zubac and Ibaka to do a lot of screenplays, and most of the time, one of them would be open on the 3-point line and one of them would be driving in. But if it all failed, they ended up running these screenplays. And if it ended up failing, they would give it to Kawhi Leonard. And then they would kind of set into like a triangle offense. And the Clippers kind of did this all year until Kawhi got injured. And they were doing pretty well. I reckon, oh man, if we had Ty Lue, that'd be kind of nice right now. That's I don't know.
You think so?
I don't know. Do you not like Ty Lue?
I won't say I don't like Ty Lue.
Yeah.
But I will say I do feel like he's overrated.
Really?
Even though we won a ring with Ty Lue.
Yeah.
I feel like he's overrated because of who he's had, right? Because even if you want to assess the Clippers, right? And I know we've been talking about Cleveland, but even if you want to assess the Clippers, right? The team, he still was in positions where he would have players like Rondo and Boogie who would obviously be effective in series, especially Rondo would be really, really effective, especially against when they play Phoenix.
Yeah.
And Utah and Dallas, right? And it was times where he wasn't playing Rondo because if you look at that first series, right? It really shouldn't win 7 games with Dallas, right? Like, and I really love Luka, but it shouldn't have been 7 games, right? Because when you had Rondo literally trying to say, "Hey, Paul George, we're gonna literally spoon feed you the ball until you get your confidence. I don't care. I don't care who's upset with that. Paul George get the ball, you attack that, right? You need players like that because Rondo is the caliber of player who changed the dynamic. Like not Rondo, like Rubio, right? He's that type of player. He can he's not the best player on the team, but what he does, the small thing that changes games, right? And I feel like Ty Lue, he plays like this 6-man, 7-man lineup, which is not very effective. Which honestly, I think that's one of the reasons why they lost. Yes, they made it to the Western Conference Finals, but I feel like if he would have played players like Luke Kennard more, Rondo
that's
more,
Luke Kennard especially.
They would have won because they was in situations where, they had no offense, right? You had no offense with Dallas, who also outside of Luka had no offense. Like KP was giving them 6 and 4. There's no reason Tim Hardaway Jr. alone and Dorian Finney-Smith should be out shooting y'all. So, and
it's
y'all
a different way to kind of look at it. Like I think the Clippers they played man quite a bit. Like once he had that really good game, they started playing him quite a bit.
Yeah.
So maybe they should have looked to play players like Luke Kennard and that maybe a little bit differently. But talking about those screenplays that we kind of ran, I'm hoping JB kind of organizes this in. I don't mind JB because even though I don't know if he's necessarily a great coach yet, I still think he's really good at developing the younger players. And one thing about getting Laurie Marken in, which I thought was pretty good, is you can run a lot of screenplays with Laurie Marken. And what he does that Larry Nance does is that in Chicago, Laurie Marken was actually doing a lot of those screenplays, and he would get open at the catch and shoot and do pretty decent. So it is going to be, it will be really interesting to see how marketing goes and if he kind of fits in.
I agree with you 100% because that's just going to be weird. That's just naturally going to be a weird lineup because it's like because Chicago tried playing him at the 3. I've seen the games where they tried to play him at the 3 and he wasn't quick enough.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you keep Laurie at the 4, it's like he does bring the shooting we needed, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, will that come on the expense of the time Evan Mobley was supposed to get at the 4, right? Because it's like, that makes me feel like either you don't trust Jared Allen, or you don't trust Evan, right? Because it's like, and I guess you can interchange it. Like you can put Evan at the 4 a couple minutes, see how it works, and him at the 5, see how it works. But I just don't know because Laurie was in a situation where he wanted to leave Chicago because he felt like he wanted more opportunity.
Yeah.
But can you get more opportunity on the bench? I
don't know.
Like, and then Evan Mobley, we drafted him because, he was the best available, top 3 power, Then you got Jared Allen, you just gave him $100 million.
Yeah.
So you're not going to pay, we know you're not paying him on it. I would hope not.
Yeah.
So it's like, what's the long-term plan for that?
The other thing is, what Mobley did all right in Summer League too? He did really good at switching to guarding, like, the small forward. Like, he did that quite a couple of times.
Yeah.
Is there a situation where you could see Mobley running maybe a bit of the small forward?
I know I did a breakdown analysis on him, and like you said, a lot of plays he was switching on guards and wings.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I know he got that KD comparison where we said he's a Swiss Army knife. He can do everything. But I don't know if we want to hit him in his first year and say, hey, like maybe you tried a couple games just to see, where he at. But
it's a bit of a stretch to put him at the 3.
Yeah, that's like you pinning him in the ocean immediately, because you got to think about the players he's gonna have to play at the position. Like the players you would want him to play at that position is the Giannis, the LeBrons, the KDs, Paul George, Kawhi. Like these are mobile wings. These are 6'9", 6'10".
Yeah.
Like these ain't regular wings, and I don't know if Evan Mobley is quick enough to guard those type of wings. Like maybe a wing that's not truly a wing, like let's say
KD, like he's like a dude that plays small forward, but let's be real, he's supposed to be, with his height, he's supposed to be a power forward / center, which he's been doing a lot at the Brooklyn Nets,
Yeah.
But it's just a weird thing to look at Mobley at the 3, especially considering he was like a center in college. Yeah.
And I know you see it too. Like our fans, our Cavs fans, our people, they saying, pit Laurie at the 3, pit Evan at the 3, pit Jared at the 3, probably one of them at the 3. Like I don't know if that's the answer.
Yeah.
And then even if you do that, maybe let's say hypothetically, let's give it to them. Defensively, they are crazy. But when it comes to offense, do you trust them enough offensively to win you a game? Because Cleveland was already in the situation this past season where our offense and our 3-point shooting was terrible. We was one of the worst in the league, right? Our defense was, especially early on, was spectacular. Like we had a top 3 and 10 defense, like going, from start the league to before the trade deadline, before players start getting hurt. So I think that thing will carry over, but offensively, I think that might make it even worse because now Laurie would have to be a hitter, Evan Mobley would have to be a hitter, and Jared Allen has just kind of gained his confidence shooting a mid-range jumper. So it's like, do you really want to? Because you got to think this is a new era, right? Like, because
Yep.
this was like 20 years ago, you can probably get away with that. But now, when you have every center can shoot the ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every power forward can shoot the ball. Every wing can shoot the ball. Every guard, I was just talking to one of my friends earlier, like the average 3-point percentage is 35%, right?
Yeah.
Right, and then for an average field goal percentage is 45%, right? So if the average is 35% and you're shooting 20% from three,
Yeah.
you're a
great.
nuisance. Like, because that even with Giannis, like, even though Giannis won a championship, but we was saying that was going to be the reason why he never won a championship is because he didn't shoot the ball well, right?
Yep.
We get on Ben Simmons because he doesn't shoot the ball. So,
Mm-hmm.
It's like we can't underestimate having lackluster shooting is.
Yep. It's crazy. The Cavs are in such a weird position, but I reckon that's, dude, I don't even know. I'm honestly speechless with how the Cavs, just kind of brought in Marken now. I don't even know what to think about all of this, but I think thank you so much for coming on. It's been really, really good to speak to you. I just wanted to thank you guys so much for watching this video. Go check out Relly's channel, which I will link it in the description down below. Leave a like, subscribe, comment your thoughts and opinions. Me and Relly would like to know, what do you guys think the Cavs are going to do this off season? Upcoming one. How are they going to handle this season? Let me know down below. But as I was saying, leave a like, subscribe, and comment. I'll see you guys next time.
Yeah.
Goodbye.